there was a huge log jam. This was a major problem. Now, the good news is the whole state isn't implementing this according to what you just said right away. But I don't know to what extent, is it the state that's gathering and grimbling the data and feeding it back to us, or where does this go? Does this go to a corporation that does it for this test, or who's doing that activity?
Well, the Smarter Balance, it would be the consortium that gives us the feedback. There's a testing company which is handling all of the,
Okay.
organization. And for the Common Core State Standard Practice Test, I'm imagining that's in-house in our state. Information is trickling in. We, in fact, do not know which of our grades in Vernon will be tested. We are not sure. We've signed up all of our grade levels that could be tested. We don't know what percentage. For example, Smarter Balance said that we could test 50%. So some of our schools took advantage of that. So larger schools, like for example, Vernon Middle School, they had a choice, in fact, as to what they would test, math or ELA. They chose to do math, and they have chosen to do 50%. With the Common Core, we have not received that information. It's still forthcoming. So.
Okay, I won't ask it again because it's pretty clear to me we're not sure when we get the results, okay? But I'd like you to try to find out when we might expect to see some of that kind of information if we're going to do this at all. Now, the problem of how many devices we have and where we have them to be, like in the middle school scenario, could that be solved by having the students go to the computers where we do have them, regardless of what building, for instance, after school or on Saturday, in order to take advantage of the devices that we do have? Because when you divided it, you were dividing, I can't see that, but you were dividing the 3,000 tests by the number of units in the building, not the number of units available to us in the system.
Correct.
So an interim step might be to actually send the middle school students after school or on a Saturday to the terminals that we have, right?
One of our challenges in doing that is that those units are used by students in specific courses of study.
Not after school or on Saturday. That's why I said that.
Oh, to run testing on Saturday or after school?
Well, okay. It's a unique one-time thing, at least initially. I'm not saying open school on Saturday, but hey, it's okay with me. I just think that maybe after school we could go do this kind of process because we need to, there's 3,000, I'm not doing the math here, but you see what I'm saying. We have resources just because they're in another building. Why can't we access them?
I'm sure we'll be challenged to explore all options.
Yeah, we're looking at all possibilities to try to answer those questions. Certainly, we clearly have a deficit of available computers, and we have to look at that. There's just no way around that. I don't know that I would want my 11-year-old being tested in the late afternoon after she sat through class all day. I don't know that she would fare very well, but that's just my opinion. The other piece is IT support and having the right amount of people in the right locations to support that. And so that is a huge challenge because we really don't have but a handful of people and we have a lot of overlapping. And so that's a challenge as well. But we'll look at any option that makes sense that is going to help our kids excel.
Are these computers that you have primarily in the media centers?
Yes, they're in the library areas.
Okay, so we wouldn't be interrupting the classroom process, right?
Precisely. That's why we chose that location. And as a general rule, those spaces are larger, so as we acquire more machines or can bring more machines to bear, we can test more students at the same time.
Dr. Conway wants to.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, just to add to that, there are numbers up here that certainly would be optimal. We would like 24 computers in a certain space in each of these schools. Lake Street only has 12 in their library. And Northeast School, I think there's 20 or 20, not even 22 in their little teeny computer lab, which is off the library. So So even though that's what we're thinking is one class at a time, we're not even there yet. We will have to redeploy computers from classrooms and from other locations in order to make up that 24. So we're not there yet.
And we've done some of that already for the pilot. Though we'll have, SBAC is scheduled to have a 12-week window for administration, perhaps this year's pilot and next year's field testing, which will happen similarly, I think, might give them pause, and they might actually change the window, or they might change the number of minutes. The test could be transformed. We don't know, but this is indeed just a pilot.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Sarn?
Jay, I understand that there is no choice involved in this, and I understand the benefits of a pilot program, but I always get stuck on interrupting instructional time. You're going to tell me that all that is going on to assess what classroom teachers will be doing and administrators and all that other stuff is worth the loss of instructional time?
Well, we're hoping that as you look at the types of questions, you can just right away feel the rigor, the stamina that a student must have in order to be taking a test such as that. But it's not just about the test. The Common Core is what's demanding that rigor. And that's what all of our curricula is going to be aligned to. So for us to actually give our kids some practice with that, I think is a good thing. And in addition, our students actually have been working on performance assessments. We do CBAS, and they are typing. And I know, to come to the other question about how are our kids going to fare if they have to have such good typing skills, CBAS definitely told us that we need to improve in that area. So to find a balance is important, but I think the 12-week window will give us that opportunity to make sure that curriculum is not interrupted too much, and we can stagger the testing. 12-week, but not all, in other words, for the district. So not all kids will be tested all 12 weeks.
Some may test over a period of a week. And I think this brings really the point home about wanting to be able to bring more computers to bear so that we can test more kids quickly, so that we have as small of an impact on curricula and instruction time as possible.
I think I get it. To me, it's a rock and a hard place. You want to test the kids' levels and alignment and all that, but we're taking time away from that instruction to get them to that level. I don't know how you guys are going to figure that out.
Carefully.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
I just have one quick question. Are these tests timed? Because I didn't hear you say that at all. The actual administration of the SBAC, when it is administered in 2014-15, will be untimed. So students, depending on their ability, can move through the assessment more quickly than others. So yeah.
And I would add that it's untimed now as well, in the sense that we're able to break it up into several segments, up to 3 segments. There is a pause feature, so students could pause and come back to the test, so that there's no pressure. It's totally untimed.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yeah, my concern is with the requirements for the testing in the Common Core going forward, which has many issues on itself, and there are several states that are not following the Common Core. But it seems to me going forward, we're going to be spending quite a bit of time teaching our children typing and mouse skills at the expense of actual education, because we're going to be spending time teaching them to take a test, and we're just replacing one teaching to the test with another teaching to the test.
I think one of the things that one can do, for instance, in New Hampshire, we had a teacher who integrated her learning of the ABCs and tying it to the keyboard so that the kids can recognize the letter. So I think that there's some creative ways to sort of combat what you were just talking about, because that could be a very real issue. It gets down to refining curriculum development in a way that takes advantage of the technology so that it doesn't become a burden or taking away, but actually thinking about it as a part of the learning process rather than this piece that's sort of aside, and every now and then we have to go there because the kids need to learn to type. This is so much more than teaching kids how to type.
And at the same time, we don't want the medium to impact a student's ability to demonstrate their skill and their knowledge. So we have to make sure that we've helped them develop some fluency with the technology and with the navigational skills they'll need to be successful.
And this is really preparing them for the future. We're not going to see less technology as kids progress through grades. We're going to see more of it. We're already, you know, a little more than a tenth of the way through the 21st century, and it's only getting more and more. So the sooner that the kids become more fluent, the better they're going to be able to perform in a 21st century classroom.
Well, I take that from an IT guy, so I understand that you're biased in the opinion, but there are numerous careers in the past that don't require sitting at a computer and typing 120 words a minute. And what service we're doing to children that we're going to spend time teaching them how to type at the expense of handwriting and, you know, traditional educational items. There's still going to be carpenters and mechanics and everything out there that's not sitting at a computer all the time. And if we're spending resources teaching kids the only career path you have is sitting at a computer, we're doing a disservice to those students who don't want to go that route.
Well, I can absolutely comment on that piece because my son is looking to become a mechanic and he's spending a great deal of time with computerized diagnostics. And so the computer piece is still very relevant.
It's already a problem.
We would still maintain that we would use technology as a tool,
As a tool.
as opposed to technology for technology's sake.
Absolutely. It's a tool in the tool belt. It isn't the tool belt.
Any further questions? I do have one question that I wanted to put out there, and that is the question regarding the links that you say you've sent home information via students, I would assume,
Yes.
on paper.
Mhm.
Are we putting those links up on a prominent location on our
I believe
website
it's-
where people can get access to this? And anybody who's looking at the website
Right.
can see that this information there?
I believe our schools have posted them. You know, if they haven't, they're getting to it. I think they've been posted there as well. Yeah. And in some schools, they've been sent to parents electronically.
Okay, that's good. I just want to make sure we leverage our website wherever possible. We
Oh, yeah,
can have
we-
people
yeah.
who
And
log
we've
in
been-
regularly.
Exactly. And we've been fielding some calls and some emails. You know, one of the things we found that Internet Explorer was not supporting that particular browser, so that particular link. And so, you know, we've suggested, I think, is it Firefox?
Firefox. Yeah.
Firefox. So,
I saw it. Mr. Kemp.
Yeah, I'm going to move that we direct the superintendent to provide the Board of Ed with prior to the end of the school year, a preliminary result of the testing process.
I have a motion from Mr. Kemp to have the superintendent provide the board information on the testing process, progress by the end of the year. Is that what you said? What was your time frame?
Prior to the end of the school year.
Prior to the end of the school year. Do I have a second on that request? Ms. Fisher. I have a second on the request to get an update on the progress. Is there discussion, Ms. Sarn?
I'm wondering if Mr. Kemp could just qualify that, like what are you looking for?
Well, what I'm looking for are results of the test.